Hi, I'm Melissa Feick, and it's really important for you to understand that your intuition is the one thing in your life that will help you grow spiritually, mentally, emotionally, and it really connects you to your higher guidance and your higher self, and it helps you keep on purpose. And that's why today we're going to talk about trusting our intuition, and different things around intuition to help you really move forward with your intuitive self and how to trust it. So, trust in yourself and your higher guidance is the fastest way to develop and sharpen, and the easiest way to sharpen and develop your intuition. When you have trust, you're able to let go of the fears that hold you back from actually listening to your intuition. So if you're worried that you'll get the answer wrong and that you're afraid to do anything, it keeps you in this state of non-movement and non-trust. Learning to trust your intuitive and your inner voice or the inner feeling will help you start to trust yourself, which will assist you in actually moving forward and making changes in your life. Because most of the time, it's the fear of change and the fear of the unknown that keeps you in this state of distrust. This state of distrust holds you back from listening to your inner guidance. The ego is fear's puppet master. It tells you not to listen to the other voice of intuition. Don't listen to that. And when it tells you not to listen, you end up getting caught up in the fear and the mistrust that the ego's talking about. So the ego's mistrust is why most of us stay in this holding pattern in our lives. If you make one wrong choice and you see it as a reason not to trust your intuition, your ego wins. Even if it was the reason that you didn't listen to the correct voice is because you were listening to the ego voice and it wasn't the right choice, you're still going to make a mistake. If you're programmed, because we're programmed at a very early age, not to think, to only think about ourselves and think and not to use our inner voice, and how not to recognize our intuition. So how does the ego shut down the intuitive voice? And how does it create mistrust? The ego says, oh, it's too scary. Bad things will happen if you follow the intuition. And that voice, because the ego has a voice, it has a very vested interest in being the voice for you to listen to. You have free will, and you're making a choice every moment to either listen to the ego or to listen to the intuition. The ego tells you a story which keeps you preoccupied with all that fear, doubt, pain, sorrow, anger, all that is happening within. And with all that going on, how is your intuition going to come through it all? The ego tells you to fear your intuition because the ego fears being wrong. It wants you to believe you can't trust your intuitive voice. The ego wants you to mistrust the intuition, so it holds all the power. We mistrust our intuition because the ego has a vested interest in surviving, and it needs to be right. That means the ego will use any means possible to convince you not to trust your intuition. Any means. The ego wants you to trust the ego's guidance. No matter how many times it's been wrong, it thinks it's right. This is the difference between ego power and spiritual power. The ego's power is connected to mistrust, so it doesn't want you to trust your ego or your intuition, and it connects to separateness and fear. Spiritual power is connected to trust, love, oneness, guidance. Even when you know your ego uses these lower vibrational energies to help us, you're giving it the power. So you mistrust your intuition and you believe in the ego's voice of mistrust, and you get caught up in the illusion and you keep yourself separate, and you're mistrusting your ego because you're afraid of trusting your intuition. You're afraid of mistrusting your intuition, and your ego wants you to mistrust it. So you make intuition into a fear, not a divine guidance. And the ego is part of the whole self, but it doesn't mean that we have to believe or listen or follow everything it says. Intuition is something that you're born with. Everyone is intuitive. It's powerful and it's strong. And if you shut it off, if you shut it down, or you've turned down the volume, it's time to bring it back up. Since you're born with this intuitive, powerful connection to your soul, it can never go away or die. It's always, always, always there. Recognize it's always there. It's constantly communicating with you. You just started to ignore it or forget to listen to it. Think about it. So let's see it this way. If you've listened to someone tell you something over and over again, you've heard it hundreds of times, but all of a sudden you actually listened. You actually heard what they said in that moment. That's what the same thing as your intuition, because it's constantly communicating with you. It's telling you over and over without getting upset or giving up. Will never give up. It wants to communicate with you. It's up to you to listen or not. Your intuition is your internal guidance system and your connection to your soul. Even when you ignore the soul's intuitive voice, it will never ever abandon you. And the soul is patient and it will keep contacting you and doing what it's doing. It will always love and guide you, no matter if you trust in it or not. It's always there for you. It's always communicating with you, but it's up to you to listen. Your intuition helps you create the life you desire, and it keeps you connected to your soul and your soul's alignment. It keeps you in purpose. Your intuition does not speak in this foreign language that you have to learn. It's contacting you in ways that you understand and that you resonate with. Again, it's totally up to you to listen. Some will call their intuition hunches, gut feelings, a knowingness, that little voice inside. You know what it is for you. You can doubt it, but you know what it is, because the intuition has always communicated with you. Since your intuition is always communicating, it has a constant phone line open. You just need to pick it up. It communicates with you through feelings, hunches, that little voice, a sign, through Google, through animals, all sorts of ways. It can even talk to you through the radio, through numbers, oracle cards, TV, books. The great thing is that the universe is economical and it will use any means, and I mean any means possible, to communicate with you. It doesn't stop. It doesn't go away. Your intuition is connected to all that you are. And it will use everything around you to get its message across. But again, I'm going to say it again, it's going to be annoying, but it's up to you to listen and to trust. So we've all experienced times when we've ignored our intuition and our heart. We had tons of thoughts about how it didn't make sense. Oh, that doesn't make sense. Or you rationalize it and your ego's voice tells you should not trust it. Oh yeah, the mistrust of the voice, that ego's voice must be totally right. I bet you've looked back on your life and you could find times that you had these really strong intuitive hits, but you ignored it or you told yourself that it may not be trustworthy. When I'm teaching my intuitive development classes, I try to tell everyone the key, and this is the key to trusting your intuition, is to just follow it. So what if you're wrong? Who cares? Take a chance, listen to the feeling, feel the feeling, and follow through. As long as it's not this life-altering situation or event, just go for it. Just jump right in. Start with small things, like when your intuition tells you maybe take a different route to work or home, or call an old friend, or ask for a raise, or maybe even take time off from that toxic relationship, just a little break. These aren't big steps or altering events. They're simple, simple ways to follow through on your intuition. And it doesn't matter if you're wrong. It doesn't matter. The reason we're so afraid to listen to our intuition is because our ego tells it that it might be bad, that we may make the wrong choice. Ooh, it may be wrong. And then your world will crash down upon you and it'll be terrible. But I bet the last wrong choice that you made came from your ego and not your intuition. Your intuition is never wrong. It's how you interpret it or override it with ego that's wrong. So next time you have a choice to make and you're asking your intuition what to do, and you're thinking of an answer, think of it like a strategy. Make it the choice a strategic move and not the end all. Because you can always change the course if it's not working. It's just a strategic move. That's a way of never making a right or wrong choice, which is the ego's issue, because you make it a strategy. And what's the next strategic move that you're going to make? This is important for you to understand because it's probably one of the most major tips to start to trust your intuition. Make it a strategy. Use small steps. What shuts down that ability to trust your intuition, and that's what the ego does, because it shuts down and makes you distrust. Trust comes from believing in yourself. If you don't believe in yourself or that you're good enough, you'll have trouble trusting in your intuition. Take a moment and connect with your heart and ask your heart, what does it have to say? The heart's voice is totally more connected to your soul and your intuition. And your head's voice, this thing that goes on, is connected to the ego, the story, and the mistrust. So don't try to think or rationalize what your intuition is saying. Intuition is not complicated. It doesn't use a lot of words. It does its job and it waits till it's needed again, right? It just does its job. If there's too much thought, it's not your intuition. It's simple. You may ask a question to your intuition, but it may not go along with what you think you want. So that's the huge difference between an intuitive hit and your ego's wants and needs. And many times the intuitive hit actually contradicts what you think you want. So instead of asking specific questions, be open-ended. Like I like to say, show me, or I'm open to receiving. And I'm just saying, show me. And I'm open to receiving these clear messages and guidance. I'm open. So these statements allow my intuition to do its job by showing me signs, symbols, and that's easy to understand and trust. It's just simple. Make it simplistic. The ego fears the power of intuition more. And you gain this mistrust because the ego wants you to mistrust it. And when you start to trust your ego, you become more on purpose. So recognize you're just making a choice. You're just making a strategic move. And your intuition is just helping you out. And if it doesn't work out, change it. Even the best intuitives get caught up in things and fail to listen to their own intuition. The other day, I was told not to bring a stone, a big crystal, to my class. And I heard myself say, oh, no, it doesn't matter. I'll just bring it. And I stopped myself. I was like, hello, intuitive hit. Even everybody makes the mistake. So trust into your intuition. It's a practice. Trusting your intuition is a practice. And it's an important practice to have in your life. It's not something that will just happen immediately. Trust is about allowing yourself to recognize what your intuitive voice sounds like and what happens when you listen to it. So I have a great exercise, and this is really a great, amazing exercise for you to do. So I want you to really take your time with it and use it. And you can do this over and over. So go through your life, go through your whole life, and look and write down all the times that you were right about something. You were right. Your intuition was right. When you knew something was going to happen, or when you were ready to deal with the situation because you kind of already knew what was going to happen or what was going on. Write those down. Even if you didn't listen or you didn't follow that inner voice, still write it down, because guess what? It still counts as intuition, whether you followed the intuitive hit or not. Look for all the big things and the little situations that were part of that inner knowingness called the intuition. Once you write down all the intuitive hits, look at what the voice sounded like, or what the feeling was. Did you get a feeling of chills? Did you get goosebumps? What did the voice sound like? How's it different from other thoughts or voices in your head? What happened before? What were the messages? What were the signs? Spend a few minutes and meditate and feel what it felt like to trust your intuition, because that's how you're going to trust your intuition, right? It's going to be through this understanding on a deeper level that you've already had intuitive hits. You just weren't always aware that that's what it was. But looking backward, you can be more observant to how it felt, what was going on, what they look like, how they came to you. Does that make sense? So right now I'm in a room with, there's a chat below if you have any specific questions. So if you're live with us now, please ask me any questions on intuition, trusting intuition. The only thing I ask is that you not ask me to give you an intuitive reading, because it's really about you learning to trust your intuition. So if you have any questions, please put it down in the chat, and I should be able to get that in the chat box so that I can answer your questions live. So what do you do? Emily wants to know, what do you do when it's hard to hear your intuition when in a state of depression, anxiety, or stress? That's a good one. So anxiety, stress, depression comes from some inner turmoil, right? We all agree on that. So when you're having depression, you need to be really present with that. And that's your intuition saying, please look at this situation of what's making you depressed or the feelings around it. That is your intuition. It is saying to you to pay attention to that. The reason it feels shut down is because most likely the ego is taking over and really holding on to a story around it. The intuition can give you signs. So instead of trying to listen to your intuition, ask it to show you what's the next step, or what do you need to do to help you overcome this depression or anxiety or stress. The thing is that most of us are so busy in our lives that that's when we're missing our most important intuitive hits, right? Because we're so stressed out and we're going in many directions, and we're focused on the thoughts in our heads, right? So we're thinking, and the intuition voice just kind of is quieter. But that's the best time to be looking for signs and symbols outside of yourself. So books come up, you Google something and all of a sudden this weird thing comes up and you're like, this looks like something I need to look at. So all of those things will help you in your intuition. It does. I hope that answers your question. That was a great question. Ego is our biggest, I'm going to use the word nemesis, although we don't ever want to put it into an enemy. When it's only our nemesis when we're not aligned properly. So alignment means that your heart and your head and your soul are all in perfect synchronistic alignment. And your head is your ego part. And when it's off doing its thing over here, making a lot of noise, it's not in alignment with the higher with the higher understanding and divine guidance from your heart and from the soul, right? So when in that state, go to your heart and ask you how you're really feeling. How am I really feeling? And be present with your feelings. It's really important to be present with how you feel about things, because that will also shut down your intuition in a lot of ways. And Sophia is so sweet. Thank you very much. I love intuition. You know I do. So I appreciate that. Is there anything else, any other questions anyone has? I want to make sure that this is clear and that I'm answering anything that's live now, because intuition, the most important thing is to make it a strategy. Don't take it too seriously and play with it like a game. Okay, let's just pretend that was an intuitive hit. Now we're going to go act upon it. Small acts, nothing big. And recognize that intuition is not complicated. The reason we complicate our intuition, this is what cracks me up the most. The reason that we complicate our intuition is because the ego wants to complicate it. The intuition is simple. It's so simple, and it's always available and always there. So Jeffrey, my brain is always on and it distracts me. How can I tune that out and listen to my intuition? Great question. Great question. So Jeffrey, what you do is you recognize that voice and you give it a time to talk. So you go, okay, the voice is on. I'm going to listen to it for a few minutes. And then you need to acknowledge what it said. Okay, it told me these things. The next step, and this is the step, is you've got to go to your heart. There are those who are mostly in their head and those who are mostly in their heart. The people mostly in their heart tend to be a little bit more intuitive. So what you do is you ask your heart what the intuition is telling you and not your head. And it's a practice, just like meditation. You can't meditate for 3 hours if you haven't worked up and practiced meditation. So it's a practice. Intuition is a practice. And that's why I like to give you small steps and tools to help you practice. So the other thing, listen to your heart, which is huge. And I've helped people do that. And it really does help them really get really clear on their intuition. The other thing is ask your intuition to show you signs and symbols, because that's what it will do. It will give you signs and symbols that will give you the intuition and the intuitive hits that you're looking for without needing to listen to a voice inside or listening to or paying attention to what the feelings that you're having. Those are two of the easiest ways, and synchronistic ways, synchronicity. And I have actually a video on intuition and synchronicities in my video feed somewhere. So I hope that answered it. Okay, so Emily says, I had a low, oh, that might be private. No, it doesn't. Major life transition decisions come up. And I try to tune in my intuition, and I was more difficult to differentiate between intuition, no, and being directed by some conscious fear. How can I hear that better? Again, I would look outside of yourself a little bit and also let it go. So instead of going, is this the right choice? Is this the right choice? Is this the right choice? Let it go. Because it's in the state of allowing and receiving that you get into intuition and your best intuitive hits. When you're going, what do I do? What do I do? What do I say? What do I do? Is this right? Is this wrong? Is this right? Is this wrong? That's when you get caught up in the ego's voice and the intuition isn't as clear. So just take a step back and go, okay, I'm open to receiving what this is, and make a small step toward making that decision. Small step. And if it's wrong, you can always backtrack a little bit. So let's say the step is, I get this question a lot, or often, should I divorce? Or should I move to another state? Then I always tell people, okay, what has shown you to do this? What have been the intuitive hits in the past to make that decision? What have you received before? And then the other thing is take one step. So look into what divorce would be like. Take feel into if you didn't have your partner anymore. I can't tell you, some people will actually make the decision to leave a spouse and then they second guess leaving. So take these like pretend journeys on leaving. So if I left, would I be lonely? And most people, for someone who, myself, I've been married for 22 years this month. So it's been a long time. And believe me, we've been through our ups and downs. And although I've never really seriously contemplated leaving, there have been times that I've thought, is this the right partner for me? I've actually taken steps energetically to see if I would want to be separate from him. And it didn't work out. It just didn't feel right. Little things would come up and I go, that doesn't feel right. So I hope that helps and that makes some sense. That was an example that I had. Okay, we're almost at a half an hour and I don't want to overburden a video, but any other questions? That I'd love to answer anything. And so just so you know that this will be on YouTube. So if you have friends that may benefit from this, please send them the replay or the YouTube link, and subscribe to my YouTube channel, because my goal is to be of service this year. And I am putting myself out there and giving a lot of information away for free about personal development and expanding yourself. So the spiritual expansion and personal development all go together. You can't have spiritual expansion without personal development and developing who you are as a person and developing your connection with yourself. Okay, so subscribe to my channel. If you're not watching this live, definitely subscribe to YouTube so you don't miss anything great. And if you are watching live, I have some other things next week as well. Go to my website, which is below at melissafeick.com. It's under, oh my gosh, something about ascension. I think it's spiritual. You'd think I'd know what it was, but I can't remember. But I want to help you help yourself and really connect and be in tune with yourself. So you can reach me at melissa@melissafeick.com. And I also help people really become in alignment with their true selves and really live on purpose and release all their blocks to not just their intuition, but their blocks to feeling and being in the state of higher consciousness, of oneness, trust, love. So have a really blessed, amazing day, and I'll see you at the next video.